That night, something strange happened that was not anticipated. A woman decided to give birth at the hospital, but she was carrying a secret she hadn't shared with anyone. After the birth, she inquired about something the next day that no one dared to think about. Everything seemed normal, but something mysterious began to emerge. What really happened? Keep watching to find out. Once there was a woman who had 3 daughters and 2 sons, and she was blessed with another pregnancy. As her due date approached, she recalled her usual practice of giving birth with the help of a midwife in her village. The midwife, a woman authorized to assist in childbirth, would handle deliveries unless complications arose, in which case the expectant mother would be transferred to a hospital for proper care. This time, however, the woman experienced severe fatigue during her pregnancy. She approached her husband and said, "I want to give birth at the city hospital." Her husband agreed and took her to the hospital. In her final month of pregnancy, the doctors examined her and said, "You need to stay in the hospital for close monitoring." She agreed and remained at the hospital while her husband returned home, which was far away from the hospital. A few days later, the doctors informed her that she would need a cesarean section. She responded, "No problem," and signed the necessary papers. The operation was successful, and she delivered a baby boy. The next morning, she asked to see her child. They brought the baby to her for nursing, but when they returned him to the nursery, she asked, "Where is the second baby?" The doctors were taken aback and asked, "What second baby?" She replied, "I was carrying twins, but I didn't tell anyone. That's why I insisted on delivering at the hospital." A dispute began. Her husband arrived, and she told him about the situation. She started crying and arguing with the nurses. The husband decided to file a lawsuit against the hospital. Investigations between the Ministry of Health and the hospital lasted for 2 years, and the reports concluded that the woman had given birth to only one child based on hospital records and testimonies from the medical staff. A year after the court ruling affirming that the only child born was Hashim, the family began to accept the situation. One day, Hashim's uncle was at the hospital for a medical appointment. After finishing, he called his son to pick him up. His son, unable to make it, suggested he ask Hashim's father to send Hashim instead. The uncle agreed and called Hashim's father, who replied, "Hashim will come to you." While waiting, the uncle saw a young man in a suit enter the waiting area. He called out, "Hashim! Hashim!" But the young man did not respond. The uncle approached him, placed a hand on his shoulder, and said, "I'm your uncle. Why didn't you answer?" The young man replied, "I am not Hashim, and I don't know you." The uncle was astonished. The young man bore a striking resemblance to Hashim. He immediately recalled the case of the missing twin and wondered if this young man could be Hashim's twin brother. He called Hashim's father and asked, "Did you send Hashim?" Hashim's father replied, "Yes, he's on his way." Moments later, Hashim entered, wearing his traditional clothing. The uncle said to Hashim, "Come here and look at this young man." When Hashim saw him, it was like looking in a mirror. The uncle called Hashim's father and asked him to come immediately. When Hashim's parents arrived, they were stunned to see the young man, who was the spitting image of their son. The mother ran to him and hugged him, but the young man said, "Who are you?" The mother replied, "I'm your mother." He responded, "My mother is waiting for me inside the hospital." Hashim's father filed a new lawsuit against the hospital, demanding an investigation. The young man and the woman who had raised him were summoned. During the investigation, the woman admitted she had taken the baby from the nursery on the day he was born. She explained that she only had daughters, and her husband had threatened to marry another woman if she didn't bear him a son. A DNA test confirmed that the young man was indeed the son of Hashim's parents. The woman confessed to her crime, revealing that she worked at the hospital and had planned to steal one of the twins that night. The hospital was held accountable for the incident, as it was revealed that the medical staff had intentionally concealed the missing child to avoid legal repercussions. The woman was sentenced to 18 years in prison, but served only 1 year after Hashim's family dropped the case, sympathizing with the circumstances the young man had endured. The young man remained emotionally attached to the family that raised him and asked his biological parents to forgive the woman who had raised him. In the end, the story concluded with reconciliation between the two families, despite the lingering bitterness of the incident. After 23 years, life continued normally until that moment when Hashim's twin brother was reunited with his uncle. In that moment, the truth was finally revealed, and it became clear that the mother was right when she said she was carrying twins. By Allah's will, the lost twin was brought back to the rightful family. Thus, we learn that what happened was not just a coincidence, but rather a destiny from Allah who reunited the family after many years.